Hello again everybody, it's Coach Rachel here, and I'm going to do a shoe comparison between the Adidas Adios Pro 4 and the Nike Alphafly 3. The reason I've decided to now pare down and try to compare these two shoes is that I think these are great marathon workhorses and half marathon racing shoes. And the reason being is because I have a couple half marathons coming up this fall that I plan to race the fastest I can go, and then that might segue into a full marathon in the winter. We will see, because I have my bunion. I don't like it, but it's on my foot, and I have to basically decide if I want to risk pushing my bunion through an entire marathon. So some of that consideration does come down to the pair of shoes that I want to race. I love all the shoes, but I think for nearly 3 hours I have to kind of be careful and watch the bunion. If anyone's dealt with a bunion, I'm sorry that it hurts, but there are ways to mitigate it, and that would be a different topic for a different video. So let's dive right into these shoes. Let's just refresh our memories of what they are structurally, weight-wise, things like that. So over here on the Adidas, we're looking at 39 millimeter stack height in the heel, and that tapers down to a 33 millimeter in the forefoot, which means it's a 6 millimeter drop heel to toe. Over here in the Nikes, they are very similar to the Adidas. They are 39.5 millimeters in the heel and 31.5 millimeters in the forefoot, which means they're an 8 millimeter drop. So right off the bat, 8 millimeters versus 6 millimeters more than likely is not going to cause significant issues for the general running population. Where the lower stack height could potentially is if anyone's has some Achilles issues. That might flare up a little bit in the lower drop, particularly if you were to go zero drop shoes, something from a company called Ultra, who specialize in making zero drop shoes. The lower the drop is, meaning the lower this is relative to here, the more stress strain, if you will, you're putting on your Achilles and your calf. As your heel drops lower, so it stretches everything out in your lower extremity, if you will. But it does also have its perks as well, because potentially people that do have issues with their toes, being set back on their heels a little bit actually helps alleviate some of the forefoot metatarsal issues. So it's a give and a take, and it really just depends on your running mechanics and what you have going on with any injuries or concerns there. And as far as weight goes, they're within half an ounce of each other. If you're a men's size 9, you're looking at 7.6 roughly ounces for this shoe. Versus 7.1 ounces, so 7.6 and 7.1, and then for the female size, you're looking at 6.1, 6.4 ounces for the Adidas and 6.1 ounces for the Nikes. Now, right into the differences. Each one of these does have their issues with heel strike. The heels are still just a little bit unstable if you really were to just smack onto the heel of the shoe and then try to roll forward. This does not have much of a heel counter at all. As you can see, I can just bend it around. Whereas the stiffer this is, the potentially more stable your foot will be if you strike on your heel and your foot rolls around a little bit. I can't say there's much better going on over here. It has a little bit of a bolstered material that comes up to about here in this shoe, and then it's all completely lightweight mesh with a little bit of foam support to help with the padding of the Achilles and to minimize chafing. And Adidas takes care of that with this different type of material here, and they tend to put the foam a little bit more on the side and just leave this back open. Either way, both actually have a great heel lockdown, so I did notice very minimal amount of heel slip even in the summertime when the shoes and the socks are getting beyond soggy because humidity matters. And the lockdowns have been great. I have to say the lacing on the top is just a little bit better in the Nike. I have had to retie these before, but it has been only once, and maybe the laces came just a little bit loose. But I'm going to err on the side of I probably just didn't lace them tight enough. But again, very, very minimal issue. Most of the time, everything was perfect between the two shoes as far as staying at the right tightness that I drew the laces to for whatever workout I was doing. Another big consideration between these shoes, the arch height in this shoe bed right here is much more pronounced in the Nikes and quite a bit flatter in the Adidas, right here where your arch would be sitting. It's fairly noticeable. So if you have flat feet, you would probably naturally gravitate to this shoe, because this could actually cause some blistering issues. I know the predecessor model of Nikes, the inside of the arch area was causing quite a bit of blistering. People would get those really long, weird, like blood blisters on their in their arches, and kind of cause some discomfort. I have medium to slightly high arches, so I did not fall prey to it, and I actually like the arch support, but I didn't mind the shoe either. And of course, if there's people that use custom insoles, you will mitigate a lot of that by just using your insoles in here, though it does change the ride mechanic a little bit of the shoe. As I do any shoe review, it is a completely stock shoe, if you will. I don't use insoles or anything like that. Another characteristic, I guess, of these shoes is they do run a little bit long and they're a little bit narrow. So I would say there's almost a quarter size difference in the Adidas. So if you are picking your shoes, unfortunately, I've noticed that a lot of shoes will run at or just below, meaning just slightly small. So true to size on the Adidas, potentially just a little bit stubby in the Nikes, although I more or less have the same size, and like in euros it'd be a 40. So all my shoes run that size. I do like the Euro sizing in that regard. What's the number? It's just one number. So I think that's quite nice. So toe box width though, even though these do run a little bit narrow, they're relatively the same overall between the two shoes. The one up the Nikes have is the mesh does conform to your foot, and it will allow a little bit of expansion, whether your feet are swelling because it's hot and you're on your feet for a long time, or you do have just a little bit wider foot through the metatarsals. This shoe will forgive it slightly, as you can see it's meshed all the way through here, so if your big toe is pressing in there, this material will conform around the anatomical structures of your foot. As you look at this shoe where this stripe comes in, the material is a little bit more taut. It will not bend and flex nearly as much as the Nikes will. So do keep that in consideration. Obviously, trying on these shoes, if you're able to, is probably the number one way to go about it. But sometimes people need to know a little bit ahead of time what they're getting into, because they have to purchase and ship the shoe and deal with returns and everything. So if there's folks like us that can try to do some shoe reviews for you, all the better. So that's as far as some of the differences. Another one, even though I said both of these will not be ideal for a heel striker, if you look closely, you can see I've actually put some miles on these. Each of these shoes have about 100 miles, 160 kilometers on them. There is more material that goes towards the heel versus in the Alphaflys, where it starts to really taper off a little bit more through here. So this will forgive a little bit more heel striking, and then just overall the outsole is a little more durable. The Continental rubber does a good job. The rubber will outlast the foam on these, I guarantee that. Now that being said, as far as super shoes go, I think they're quite durable. They will last longer than, in my estimation, the Pumas. And durability has to be said relatively to carbon-plated shoes. They are special. They're usually for good workouts and your special races and all that good stuff. And then you have your typical trainers that take the mileage, take the beating, the day in and day out running, and then we save our super shoes for those fast occasions, and they make them all the faster feeling. So I think that's kind of the main differences between these two. I have to say, if you're like me with a little bit of a bunion, this is a little more forgiving on the toe off, if you will. So if you hit midfoot and toe off, it's just a little bit more gentle. Although the shoe is quite efficient, it's still helping you go forward, obviously. Nike's been making super shoes for a while. The toe off is just a little bit more aggressive than the Adidas. So it has the same, plants very well in the midfoot and then just rolls off. More aggressive toe off here. And that actually helps out people that have a strong, long, lower cadence stride. I do believe the Adidas caters to that just a little bit as well. Not to say that if you you know, if you turn over quick, that's not to exclude a higher cadence runner. I just noticed that this does lend itself to good, powerful push-offs, as I would try to extend my stride, shorten my stride a few times as I tried each shoe, and I'm very happy with either shoe, to be honest with you. So as far as my purposes go, right now I'm about a week out of time of I'm filming this, of doing a half marathon, basically to get out of Texas for 5 seconds and not be in humidity. I think I'm gonna give these a go, just because I have not run a half marathon in them yet, so why not? And then if I end up doing that marathon, I think a fresh pair of these is probably going to be in order. If you have tried either one of these or both of them and have any thoughts or inputs, please comment below. If you have any further questions on the shoes, please let me know as well. So, you know, I love discussion in the comment box, and anything that I maybe missed on the shoe I can touch on or you can elaborate on, please feel free. And until the next one, y'all take care.